Do you feel like you're carrying the whole house on your back? Chores, schedules, endless reminders. It's exhausting. And sometimes it feels like your spouse isn't helping. You know they're working hard, you know that they're doing their best, and yet resentment. What if there was a way that you could share the load and we could work to further harmony and peace in the home? If you're a mom who dreams of that homestead life you see on Instagram, but you feel like you'd need an extra 12 hours in your day to make it happen, along with another set of hands, then Simply Living Homestead is for you. Hi, I'm Amanda, wife, mama, and milkmaid. I've learned the secret to simplifying my time and homestead to make room for the moments that matter. If you're ready to get time back in your day, manage your home with ease, and train your children in the way they should go, grab your pitchfork and planner, friend. Let's get to work. Hey friend, would you take a few minutes to write a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts? By doing so, you would let me know just how much you are enjoying the show and help get these episodes into the ears of women who are struggling with the same things you are. Go to simplylivinghomestead.com/review or tap that review button on your Apple Podcast player. I'm excited to hear from you. Welcome back to the homestead. Today we are talking about practical ways to share household tasks with your spouse. This is not just about splitting chores, but learning how to share the mental load too. And also some practical tips on how to go about initiating this conversation and making a equitable split, especially if you are a stay-at-home mom. I'll share what Jonathan and I have learned and how you can approach this conversation with respect and confidence. But first, friend, have you filled out the marketing research survey? Yeah, I guess that's what it's called. The marketing research survey. Have you filled that out? If you haven't, I would love if you would. That gives me, it's giving me a really great insight into who is listening to this show and what you are hoping to get out of it. I really want this show to bless you and just be something that you can each week have a little nugget to take away from it and actually put into your life. I want it to be practical. I want it to be tactical. And this survey is really helping me figure out what you need to hear about, like what you want to hear. So could you take a couple of seconds and go fill that out? It's really quick, really painless. And I would love if you could join us in bettering this podcast. All right, so household tasks, right? That's what we're talking about today. So Jonathan and I literally had to go to a couples therapist to figure this out. Yeah. It wasn't like our marriage was failing or anything, but it did feel like if we hadn't done something, it eventually would have failed. And that's coming from a couple who really doesn't believe in divorce. We believe in figuring it out and staying married. And it just kind of felt like I was living with a roommate, you know? And the house was a mess and he was grumpy about the mess and I was stressed about the mess. I can't think when there's mess around me. And yet we weren't prioritizing it and we weren't caring about it. And when things did happen, it felt like they were things that didn't matter, because the things that were not happening, like it felt like they carried so much weight that the things that were happening just weren't, like it didn't feel like it mattered. And that was leading to a lot of resentment. And we had to literally sit in this couples therapy's office and get kind of swatted in the face with this hard truth that, like, we share a home. We should be sharing the tasks. And that was kind of hard to challenge because, like, we are a traditional family. We believe in traditional values, right? We were kind of raised in that system. And so, you know, he was like, our therapist was literally like, well, you know, who does that task? Well, Amanda does it. Why? Why does Amanda do that? Because Amanda's supposed to do it. And that was kind of the thought that he was challenging there. Now, I'm going to just straight up say that, one, I don't care about male-female split, like what the traditional is. I genuinely don't think that it matters. I have more plumbing skills than my husband for whatever reason. So it's either me or I'm calling my dad, to do some of those tasks. So right off the bat, I'm kind of weird. All right. But this also isn't about, like, if you are a stay-at-home mom and your only job is being a homemaker, then yes, you are going to carry more of those daily tasks, more of those tasks that have to get done inside the home, because he's out there earning money. If you both work a job, then you both better be splitting the stuff as equitably as possible. But it's not really about what the task is. It's about the weight of the task and the frequency of the task. And then, most importantly, it's about the ownership of the task. Does he have to think about it? Or do you own it? Okay, now a lot of times we can turn this on our husbands and we can go, well, you're never helping and you're not doing all this stuff. And I mean, I'm a woman, so there is definitely some of that bias here, but like, there was things that if I stop and truly think back on it, he had a certain amount of ownership of that task that I was supposed to be doing. And that was causing resentment on his end too, because he was having to remind me to do a task that I was supposed to be doing, and vice versa, right? Like, that's where the age-old, like, comic book piece comes from. Like, she had to remind me to, like, take out the trash, and it's because, and that's why in the stories and the posts that you see about this, that's why that resentment is there. It's not so much about the fact that she did 100 things. It is, partially. But it's also about the fact that even though it was his job to take out the trash, he didn't have ownership of it. And I was doing that too. I was supposed to be doing certain tasks and certain activities in the home, and he was having to remind me, like, they weren't getting done. And we are going to cover this in the future. I have lots of episodes planned about what I have done to really give myself the space to be able to tackle my tasks, right? But for now, let's just kind of talk about this thought pattern about, like, are you owning that task? Are you taking complete ownership of it? Are you noticing when it needs to be done? Do you have a schedule when it needs to be done? Are you meeting the minimum standard of care that you've both agreed needs to happen for this task? So I'm using some terms here that we got from the book Fair Play, and we actually ordered the Fair Play cards. It's a deck of cards, kind of looks like a game, but what they are is every single card has a different task on it that you could do in your home. And we went through the cards together, and we took out anything that was not applicable to our lives. We don't have any kids in school right now, so all the kids' school cards, they all left. I'm not running anybody to sports, those all left. And so we kind of took out all those. And then we were able to look at the cards, and the cards have two different distinctions. There's some other nuances to it too, but what we want to focus on now is there's two different distinctions. There's things that need to be done every single day, and there's things that need to happen occasionally. And the things that need to be done every single day have more weight. The things that need to be being done every single day, to the best of your ability, if the season of your life allows it, those need to be split as equally as possible, so that you are not carrying too many of them. Now, there is gonna be some discrepancy there. Again, if you are a stay-at-home mom and your only job is to care for your family, but if you have a homestead, I argue that's a second job. I argue that you can be thinking about that literally as a job. And so If you have a whole list of other things that need to be done, maybe your homesteading doesn't really involve a lot of animals or like milking a cow like mine does. I am literally putting in 35 hours a week just milking a cow and selling milk. But like, there are so many other things that I do on the homestead. And if you are homesteading or attempting to live a homestead life, like maybe in town or something, you are doing a lot of these tasks. You are growing a garden. You are taking care of fruit. You are canning and preserving and freezing and maybe dehydrating. Maybe if you're lucky, you're freeze drying. I'm still not lucky enough to have one of those. But you're doing all these tasks where the normal American is going to go to the store for it. And you believe in the reason why you're doing those things, but they take time and they need to be honored. So we actually even created a few cards of our own to, list out some of those tasks that could be split. So we split them out, and periodically we will sit down and kind of pull our cards out and look at them and go, are we still carrying the right tasks? And as we get better and better at this, we need the cards as like reminders less and less. And you should adjust by season and life stage and, whatever. If suddenly one of you have a lot more free time than the other, then you should probably adjust accordingly so that you both can have time to do things that you enjoy, because you both enjoy to, like, you both deserve to do things that you enjoy. So let's target our main takeaway. We've kind of got a long way in up with me kind of doing that rambly thing again. So let's target and deep dive. What is our main nugget? Sharing tasks means owning them fully, not just helping. Okay, now you can absolutely help your spouse now and then, right? That's amazing. That's a blessing. But it's only helping if your spouse owns that task, right? There are certain tasks that need to be, you both own them and like you take turns owning them, right? But when it's your turn to do it, you own it fully. Okay, again, like think childcare and this whole like concept of dad's babysitting. Well, the only reason they're babysitting and helping is because their wife holds that ownership card and they never take ownership of that. Okay, that's the reason that stereotype and that joke is there. And I commend the fathers who take that card from their wives now and then and go, okay, I'm the one parenting right now. And I'm the one carrying those responsibilities. So just as a reminder, if your spouse has to remind you or tell you how to do something, you don't own it. They do. And they are carrying the mental weight of that. And one of the easiest ways to start getting out of the weeds and getting things done is to realize what tasks each of you own and then owning them, right? Stop thinking about the task that your spouse has said that they're going to take care of. And if they're not living up to those expectations, that's a whole different topic. That's about the minimum standard of care. And we are going into this assuming that our spouse is a good-willed person who wants the best, right? So we're going to approach the subject with love and respect. We're going to assume that they want to do their best and that they believe that you also are doing your best, and that, we're going to go into it as a team. You are going to use encouragement, not criticism. Nobody likes criticism. You don't like it. Your spouse doesn't like it. I don't like it. My husband doesn't like it. Like seeing the things that are happening right. Your children respond better when you praise, not just criticize. You do better, don't you? If someone says thank you, it makes you want to do it again. It's crazy how that works, but it's a thing. And then remember that respect builds teamwork. So how do we actually implement this? So you can go and, sit down with your spouse when you have time that you don't feel busy, you're not upset. This is not a conversation to have when you are in the middle of cursing out the dishes. Okay, I don't curse, but my head does sometimes. Shame. Shame. This is not the conversation to have when you are feeling the resentment. This is a conversation to have when you both feel calm and rested. It is not a conversation to have when you are trying to get the kids ready for bed. Okay? And why am I saying that? Because I've done that. Don't do that. Don't do that. So you're going to have a conversation and you're going to kind of present that idea of ownership of the task, right? And there is something about that language that I have seen men really resonate with. My goal is to talk to women here on this podcast, so sorry if there's any men listening too. You can tell me. Am I wrong? Am I right? You're going to approach this conversation with respect and with encouragement, all right? And then once you've kind of laid the groundwork of minimum standard of care, which is the minimum level that the task needs to be performed to, take trash, for example. The minimum standard of care for trash in our home is that once a week, every small trash can gets emptied into the big household trash can. The bag gets taken out and a new bag gets put in. If the new bag isn't put in, the minimum standard of care isn't met. Okay, so that's the minimum standard of care. So you need ownership and you need minimum standard of care. Then you need to break your tasks down into two categories. And you can just do this without the cards. I have the cards linked below, a Amazon affiliate link, but you don't need them. You don't need them. You can just simply think about all the things you do and have him list all the things that he does. And then you're going to assign which are constant: dishes, meals, laundry, putting the kids to bed. Those sorts of things, those are constants. And you have constant personal care things too, okay? Brushing your own teeth, taking your shower, those are valuable on both sides. And then you have seasonal or occasional. You have taxes, you have garden planning, you have planning a trip, you have these things that they might feel bigger, but they don't happen very often. And the way that Jonathan and I really kind of split things up, and you can sit down and you're going to get to do this yourself, right? But the way that Jonathan and I kind of split this up is we have a fairly equal share of the constants, right? He does about half of the bedtime and I do half of the bedtime. He has a specific set of tasks inside kids' bedtime and I have a specific set of tasks. And we carry that. He does laundry and I do the dishes. But he does sometimes step up and help me fill the dishwasher when we do evening reset, which we will be talking about evening resets and how that kind of plays into this. But it is my job to make sure that the dishes are put away. And a lot of times it's his job to make sure the dishes are put into the dishwasher. We can kind of define whose job it is to do what. It's my job to make food. It's his job to close up the chickens. It's his job to do all the trash and the recyclables and all those sorts of things. It's my job to make sure that the house stays clean and that the routines are executed, right? We can kind of break those apart, and we have a fairly even distribution of those tasks and those times once we hit the evening routine. The PM routine, again, I'm saying a couple of things that we'll learn about in some future episodes. I hope you stick around for them. I'm so excited. Some of these things will start making more sense as we learn more of this framework. And I realize that we're starting to get a little long here, so what's our next steps? What's the things we do? So pray before bringing it up. Invite God into that conversation. Don't do this alone. Please don't do this alone. All right, you're going to start small. Choose one or two tasks to reassign or hand off fully. This is going to take time for these skills to really take place. And then you can try the fair play cards or another tool to visualize the load. It was really helpful for us to kind of distribute these up just the way they normally were when we were first doing them. And he could see just how many more cards I was carrying. And then we could look at it and he goes, well, I think about that too. And I think about that too. And I think about that too. And we could kind of have this discussion of what is mine and what is yours as far as what we're doing. So in closing, the last thing I want to tell you about these tasks is this is not a death sentence. You can try something and realize that, you know what, it would be better if you guys switched. And we actually did that with laundry. I took the laundry card and I couldn't get the laundry done. I just couldn't do it. But you know who was really good at laundry? My husband was really good at laundry. And so I took a couple of his tasks at this point sitting here. I don't remember what they were, but I took some tasks that I was pretty sure I could get done in the time I did have, and he took the laundry. And you know what? I always have clean clothes. I almost never have to go wondering where my clothes are. Now, we're still working on the getting it to our bedrooms and in our drawers piece, but that's another conversation. So, you don't have to do everything alone. Task sharing is about ownership. And with respect and encouragement, you and your husband can build real teamwork. And if anybody is proof of this, it is me. It is me. And if you want to hear that story, let me know. Tell me where you're at. Tell me where you're at in your conversation. Ask me about mine, because I could chat for another whole 28-minute episode. So, but I don't know if that's really tactical. So, anyway, but yeah, you're more than welcome to ask me. So, just as a reminder, I have that market research survey down in the description. Why don't you fill it out? I would love to hear from you. You can join my email list, and the link to the Fair Play cards is also down there. So I really hope that you have a lovely day. I hope that you are able to walk away from this and start bringing some balance to the tasks of your home. And you know what? I just thought of this. If you've listened all the way to the end, you can assign tasks to your children who would also take ownership of something. If they're getting, closer to the teenage years, your kids can do it too. I promise you they're capable of it. I know. Anyway, we will see you next week. Hey neighbor, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If so, would you take 30 seconds and share this episode with a friend who is knee-deep in their own homestead? Also, please leave me a rating or a review on Apple Podcasts. It thrills me to know that this podcast is helping you. Keep watching those sunsets, friend. I'll meet you back here on the homestead soon for another episode. See ya!